Hello everybody and welcome to Izzy Builds Bricks. I am Izzy and today I'm going to be starting the world map, which is set number 31203. It is one of the largest sets that LEGO has. I already have it opened because when I first recorded this video it didn't work out quite so well, so I'm going to redo it. So I already have some stuff set up for me to go ahead and start building. This set does have 11,695 pieces to it. And I will also be live streaming this video on TikTok. So if you hear me interacting with people, that is why. You probably also might be able to see my phone in the background, but that is okay. Hello everybody on TikTok, it is Izzy Builds Bricks. I am here doing the world map. Alright, so let us get started. So they do have everything on here color coded. As you can see by my instructions that they give you a number and the corresponding color with it that you then piece together on the map. I don't have a very big setup here for TikTok, so that's why the camera is a little close to what I'm doing and you can't actually see me. But that is okay. So the one thing I do like about this is the actual variety of colors that it has us using. It's very blue and green, but you got some orange, tan, and a little bit of pink in it as well. And I think it all balances out pretty nicely. I'm losing my pieces here. So there does seem to be more blue and green than any other color right at the moment, but I think it's going to come out nice. So I am doing the standard, so there's 3 different types of world map you can do. So you can do this either any of these 3, sorry, but I'm going to be doing the standard one here. I do love Lego, so it gives me an excuse to have a Lego map. Because a world map is something that I have wanted to hang up. And with my love of Lego and the ability to do this, it makes it easier for me. I do enjoy that this build is very simple, although it is going to be a little tedious having to place all of these dots individually one by one, but that's okay. It's going to look really nice in the end. And it's going to be really nice to see how everything comes together. I do like to travel. I have never been outside of the United States. That is probably going to be a goal further on down the line in my life is to travel outside of the US and experience something other than the US culture. I really want to go to Europe because I really like the history, the older history that Europe has. I mean, there is a lot of older history in the United States, but some of it's going to be really hard to find, given that the West, as we call it, didn't civilize as fast as, you know, Europe and a lot of those other places did. I do find Native American culture fascinating just because they lived a lot simpler, and sometimes I wish we could go back to that because it was simple. You know, you did your thing, you had a skill or a trade, and you crafted or hunted, and you were able to trade what you didn't need for things that you did need. You didn't have to worry about money or anything like that. And then just made things a lot simpler. I just lost, there it is, my place. Probably gonna lose my place quite a bit, as this is large. And there are still a lot of little pieces, but I'm also making sure to take my time and put the right colors where they go. So far I have 34 people watching me on TikTok. That's pretty cool. This is my first live stream on TikTok. I do hope to do some live streams on the future on YouTube as well. That might be a little ways off though. 8 is the lighter orange. And because of my clunky grabbing, I'm getting all of my colors mixed up, but that's alright. Just have to make sure I pay plenty of attention to what color I'm grabbing when I'm grabbing it. One of the nicer things about this is they have different colors starting out each row, so it does make it a little easier for me to see where I'm at. Once I do start traveling outside of the US, I haven't really decided where the first place I'd want to go is. Probably Canada. I am originally from Washington State, and I have never been to Canada, so I probably want to go there first. I have traveled to several different states within the United States. That sounded kind of redundant, sorry. I have traveled around the US a lot, but like I said, I have a goal of getting outside of the US and broadening my horizons. I've pretty much been to all of the states on the West Coast. Ooh, did I do that right? Yes, sorry. Got mixed up where I was for a second. I will say that I didn't really stop in Oregon. We were moving from Washington State to Oklahoma because that is where my mother is from, and I was a teenager at the time. So we drove from Washington State to Oklahoma, and we drove through Oregon, but I don't recall us really stopping in Oregon, so I haven't really seen much of Oregon. But we did stop in California and go to Knott's Berry Farms. And that was a fun trip. We traveled through New Mexico and Arizona. I've been through the airport at Vegas once. And it surprised me. Well, I guess it didn't really surprise me that they had slot machines in the airport, but again, I was a teenager at that time, so I couldn't really do anything about it. And the rest of those are I've been to Florida. In Florida, I got to go to Universal Studios. I did actually want to go to Disney, but my dad didn't want to take me to Disney, so we went to Universal Studios instead, which I had a lot of fun. It was an enjoyable experience for me. My most recent trip was to Atlanta, Georgia, to go to the aquarium there. Because at one point in time it was rumored to be the largest in the US. I don't think or the largest in the world. I don't think it is anymore, but it definitely is still the largest in the US. I have to say that I wasn't completely impressed with them being the largest in the US. I was expecting a little bit more than what they had, which is probably my fault because I set my expectations too high, but I did really enjoy seeing the sharks. Sharks are probably my favorite ocean dwelling creatures besides octopus because of how smart they are. But I find sharks to be very fascinating, and I mean there's so many different kinds of sharks, and I know I've talked about this in my last video on YouTube, where I did build a shark and a crab. But yeah, that was the coolest thing for me. I love sharks and I love otters too, and they had an otter exhibit, so that was really nice to go see. They did have a decent amount of exhibits and everything. Like I said, the coolest thing was probably the sharks, and they had the whale sharks, which were really nice to see up close without actually having to scuba dive. Because I do love the ocean, but I'm not a very big... I prefer to stay above the water than get in it. So I do envy people who are not afraid to go diving in the water. Because it would be a cool experience, but I don't think it's something I'm ever gonna want to do. Because just being underwater kind of freaks me out. So I've also been to New York, but I was really young when I went to New York, so I don't really remember that trip at all. I have been to Pennsylvania. We went through Virginia. I lost my place. There I am. Sorry, I lost where I was for a second. I have been through Idaho, Montana. We went to Yellowstone. My dad, when he retired from the Navy, we drove from Washington State. He dropped me off in Texas while he continued on to Florida because that is where he is from. Sorry, I kind of lost myself here. That's where I should be. Yeah, that's where I am. And we went to Yellowstone, and that was a pretty cool experience. they had a lot of buffalo. That's pretty much all I got to see while I was there, was the buffalo. We didn't get close to them. I know there's a lot of videos floating around on the internet of people getting close to the buffalo. Sorry, TikTok, I didn't realize you couldn't see that well. And their silly mistakes in doing that. But no, we didn't get close to them. We stayed a good, respectable distance away. But that and the waterfalls are majority of what I really remember going there. Me and my dad camped out. I typically sleep in shorts when we were tent camping, and I didn't know what the weather was going to be like, and it got down to like 32 degrees. So I woke up freezing because it was 32 degrees outside, and I was sleeping in a shirt and shorts, in a sleeping bag without anything else. So had to get up and put some pants on. And I don't remember, I think I might have had an extra blanket for that too. But that was a fun experience, and my best memory from that trip was the neighbors, our camping neighbors. They invited us over and we had s'mores, and I got it all over my face. And I am actually kind of disappointed in myself that I didn't allow my dad to get the picture of me before I could get my face cleaned off, because he did try, but I was rude and I didn't let him have the picture. But I was also very young, a teenager, and didn't really want that to be haunting me. But now that I'm older and can reflect on it more, I am kind of sad that I don't have that fun picture memory with him. I have also, obviously I've been to Georgia. I've actually been to Georgia twice. We went on our last trip, and then when my dad and I, back in, pretty sure it was 2004, went to Florida to see his family. We took a short trip up to Georgia, because that's where his dad was living at the time. But we didn't have to go very far over the Florida-Georgia border. And of course on our trip to Georgia we drove, so we went, me and my last trip to Georgia with my husband, he said we drove there, so we went through Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana to get there. And we did it with a toddler, and he did great in the car. He was either sleeping or just chilling out in the back. Didn't make too big of a fuss. He didn't make the aquarium a very enjoyable experience. For some reason, he was just not having it. But we did make the most of our time there. And while I was also in Georgia, I did get to go to the Coca-Cola Museum. So that was really nice. I used to be an avid Coke drinker, but I am looking after my health a little bit more, so I don't actually drink it very much. I guess I drank it too much when I was younger, and it doesn't agree with my stomach very much anymore, so. I have been to Oklahoma, of course. We lived there for a year. I didn't care much for Oklahoma, but I guess it was just because I was a moody teenager and I just moved from the place that I lived my entire life. So there is that. One of the other places that I would like to go here in the U.S. is, a lot of the touristy places, like the Grand Canyon would be cool to go to. Um, I want to also go to Mount Rushmore and see that. I think that would be a fun trip. Trying to think of any other places off the top of my head. I do enjoy going to museums, so the Smithsonian would definitely be an ideal place to go. Alright, now we're heading in. So the white that I'm putting on here is for land masses. So now I'm starting to put together bits of, I'm assuming this is going to be part of Alaska at the moment, considering that we are starting with the top of North America. So Alaska and Canada are going to be a small bit of this piece. But yeah, definitely want to travel more and go see some more stuff. And when we do want to go to Canada, we definitely want to go to see the Northern Lights. I think that would be an awesome thing to go see in person. Because, you know, seeing them on TV just kind of, they almost look fake. So I think it'd be really awesome to go see that in person so I can experience the magic of them. Alright, so this next row is going to be all of white pieces. So these white pieces are normal, like Lego pieces where you can connect other Lego pieces to it, but these colored pieces are not. You can see how flat they are compared to everything. So these white pieces allow you, they come with, the map itself came with these little peg pieces that you can put on your map to show to the different places that you've been, which I thought was a really nice touch. I really like how they put that in there, so you can actually track your travels. So yeah, what else would I like to go see in traveling? Definitely, if I ever get over to Europe, I would like to see a lot of the, you know, older historic towns. Maybe visit where Shakespeare was born and lived. That'd be pretty cool. I'm not a huge fan of his, but I think he did make some great literary artwork with his plays. So it'd be kind of nice to see where that came from. Trying to think, what else would I like to go see? I'm an avid fan of state parks, so there's probably a lot of state parks that I wouldn't mind going to and checking out. I do enjoy hiking. One of my favorite state parks in Texas is in Central Texas, but I do want to go check out the Bend State Park, which is close to the border of Mexico, and I think part of it might be in Mexico. No, I don't remember 100% for sure, but I know it is very close to Mexico, so it is a slight possibility. But I have heard that they have some beautiful scenic views over there. So I think that would be really cool to go check out. So yeah, if you guys want to let me know where your favorite places to travel are, or places you want to go check out, let me know in the comments. I am not really a big city person, so I don't really want to go to New York City. I know a lot of people like to go see the Big Apple, but it's just not me. I'm not that interested in seeing a large city. We do want to go to Vegas at least once, though. Not big gamblers or anything, but and just the experience of it, I guess, being out in the middle of the desert. Alaska is definitely a state that I do want to go see. Growing up in Washington, I grew up on NAS Whidbey Island, and we had mountains everywhere, so I just grew up with the mountains, so I do miss that aspect of it. Living in Texas, we don't get mountains. So Alaska, I think, would be pretty awesome to see because of the mountains that they have there. And just the scenery. Where I grew up, we didn't really get a whole lot of snow, but I do love the snow. The trip we took to Colorado last year before last? No, it was last year, that's right. It was pretty great because we got to travel up into the mountains and be covered in snow, because this was in February, back when the big snowpocalypse happened. We actually left a few days before it hit Texas, and we came home. We were driving, of course, because we don't fly, we drive. We were coming home in the middle of this big ice snowstorm that had hit, and pretty much we stopped in Dodge City, Kansas, and we were getting ready to check out of the hotel, and the lady's like, oh yeah, it was like negative 33 degrees this morning. We're like, no. It's time to go and get home. Thankfully I didn't have to experience that cold, because we were just a quick trip to the car and going home. But yeah, it was pretty surreal just driving through endless fields of snow and ice and not seeing hardly any traffic out on the road. And I better pay attention before I keep just putting pieces on there that don't go there. Yeah, and I dropped it. Alright, moving on. I definitely need that one. Okay. But yeah, we got back to Texas during the basically at the halfway mark of the storm, and we were fortunate enough that we didn't lose power, but since ERCOT was directing the power companies to cut power at certain intervals to cut down and try and save what was left of the infrastructure, we did have to deal with that. So it did get quite cold, but it wasn't as bad as a lot of people had it because of the amount of damage there was to everything. Hopefully things won't get that bad this year. So alright, and so we have our first piece done here. This is, like I said, going to be Alaska and I imagine part of Canada. Starting out, and we'll get started on our second one. I am probably only going to do these two pieces tonight, but that's okay. While driving back from Colorado back to Texas, did kind of suck because of the weather. It's also really nice. I mean, growing up, I didn't live in a place that got a lot of snow. You know, Texas doesn't get really any snow. It has snowed before snowpocalypse here, where I live, but it is super rare, and usually it does not stick or stay. So it was nice to drive through just to see the peaceful winter wonderland. I don't mind the cold weather as much, given that I lived in Washington State for most of my life. I'm kind of used to it. We usually had a lot of high winds where I grew up. Power outages were common where I grew up, so that was nothing new to me. When we came back and snowpocalypse was dealing with power outages. So, but the power outages where I grew up mostly were from the high winds because it got really windy. And I have memories of flying plastic bag, grocery bag kites in the wind. I would like to go back to Yellowstone. It has changed a little bit, I imagine, since I've been there. Do you remember the hot springs? The story where those people were trying to cook food in them is just crazy to me. I mean, I'm kind of glad they got in trouble because it's super dangerous. And I'm also glad that they didn't get hurt doing what they did. But it's just kind of silly. It's not something that really should ever be considered, in my opinion, but people did it and they got in trouble. But like I said, it is super dangerous, so eventually I would also like to make a trip to Disney, probably when my son is a little older and can actually enjoy it more than he would now. And of course I want to go to Legoland. I can't not go to Legoland after starting a Lego YouTube channel. And I do really enjoy Legos. So, nope, I lost that one to the floor. I'll pick that up later. It's funny because Dallas has a little like Legoland center in one of their malls, and we were trying to get in there, and I had my stepchildren with me, and they were teenagers at the time, and they told me no, that I couldn't go in because I didn't have any children. I was like, but I have children, they're just a little bit older. But they're like, it wouldn't be as fun of an experience for us. So I was like, well, but I do have a youngster now, so maybe in a couple of years we'll try and make that trip again. Go to little Legoland place in Dallas. I think it was called Legoland, but it wasn't like an official Lego, like, well, it was officially Lego, but it wasn't like the Legoland in California. It was just a small little thing, part of a mall. They even had like a little water park, I think, too. But yeah, they weren't too happy about me trying to get in without some little kids. But that is okay. Like I said, we will return to that eventually. so far, this is coming along pretty nicely. I guess I need to get some relaxing music to play while I'm doing this. Probably make things a little bit nicer. Thank you for the sunflowers. I lost where I'm at. There. Eventually I will have a little bit better of a setup to make things easier to see. And hopefully my camera will stop zooming in and out. But probably because I'm moving too much. If the camera's lagging. A lot of these colors remind me of Easter colors because they're more of a pastel color. I am doing only one row at a time because otherwise I'd probably easily lose where I'm at. And then it would just take even longer, so. So another cool thing that I wouldn't, excuse me, I'm sorry, mind doing is going to Florida with a metal detector, or I mean even the coast of Texas after a hurricane and seeing what washes ashore from some of the many shipwrecks that have been done out there in the oceans. Yep, those are the wrong colors. Sorry. I almost put the wrong colored piece on there. Six of these pieces right here, and one more. have to put some more of that light blue color in soon. There's 2 of these turquoise colors here. So my preferred way to travel is definitely going to be driving. The only thing that sucks about it is, depending on how far you're going, it does put a lot of miles and wear and tear on your vehicle. But it also makes things a little easier because you can stop and get out whenever you want, and you don't have to worry about a bunch of other people being in the same small space as you. Sorry, I lost my place for a second there. Trying to make sure I didn't put the wrong color in the wrong spot. While traveling in the car can be a little bit uncomfortable, like I said, it's easier that way because you can get up and stretch your legs and take a break from driving. And definitely lost my place there for a second. Okay. I almost put the wrong colored piece in. I honestly don't think driving is really more expensive. I think depending on where you're going, the cost of driving versus flying is going to be about the same. Unless you do want to count the wear and tear on your vehicle, but like I said, it's much easier to do it that way because you're in something, your vehicle, your own vehicle, which is something that typically people are comfortable in, versus being in a plane with a bunch of other people that you don't know can be kind of uncomfortable. Sorry, for some reason, keep losing where I'm at. And I do want to make sure that I don't put the wrong colored pieces in the wrong place. Like I accidentally did there. Alright. There's that. And tan. Road trips can be very fun. You get to stop and see new places, and if you see something along the way in your travels that you want to stop and check out, you're more than welcome to do that. With the plane, I mean, flying can be really nice because you can get there a lot quicker, and you can also get the scenic air views, but driving also can be really fun, especially if you're just traveling to explore. I mean, you get to explore more of, you know, wherever you're at. If you're in the U.S., you get to explore more of the U.S., or if you're, you know, in Europe traveling through different countries, you can explore more of those countries that way versus flying. You don't really get the opportunity to do that. So these 2 rows that I'm working on, they're like the exact same for the first 4 pieces. So that does help a tiny bit, knowing I'm on the 2nd row. And also with road trips, you can discover things that you wouldn't have otherwise discovered. Did I miss something? I missed a piece. Yep, I scoofed that. It was bound to happen sooner or later. There we go.
You should put the box up somewhere where it can see what you're building.
I don't have room for it though. I mean, I can put it there. My favorite part of growing up in Washington is definitely the mountains. I do miss seeing the mountains. That's one thing I don't get here in Texas. But one day I will take my son to go back and see where I grew up and share that with him. We were actually planning on going back in 2020. But unfortunately the pandemic started, and we of course didn't know how anything was going to turn out, and you know, of course, what was happening with the virus, you know, what it was and what it was doing to people or anything like that. So we had to cancel that trip, and I was going to go see my grandmother, because I knew she was getting up there in age, and I knew she wasn't going to be around forever. So I was going to go see her and let her meet my son. I had lost contact with her because we had moved from the state, and I didn't have her information. So I was going to go see her and let her meet my son. And that was probably the only time he was ever going to be able to meet her. But like I said, the pandemic happened, and unfortunately we were going to plan, okay, well maybe next year we can go, not knowing how everything was going to play out, of course. But and around the time that we were going to go, she ended up in the hospital with an infection in her foot, and she spent pretty much the entire year in and out of the hospital before she finally passed away before Thanksgiving. So I unfortunately did not get to bring my son to the place that I grew up, and unfortunately I didn't really get to say goodbye the way I wanted to. But I was able to talk with her on the phone for a little bit, off and on, as she lost and regained her strength, because she had to have surgeries to correct her foot issue. But I believe that she was at home when she passed. She was able to go home and spend time with her family and be with them. It's Tennis Peak. She was a wonderful person, and I'm going to miss her. And I remember the last phone conversation I had with her before she passed on. It was about a month before. I remember her telling me how much she loved me, which she didn't do very often. It made it more special for me. But maybe in a few years I can take my son to go see a magical place that I grew up on. It's funny that my husband is from Washington State too, though he didn't grow up there like I did. He, like a traditional military brat, moved around a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna have to count these to make sure I get it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need one more. Alright. I think he only lived there, less than a year. So he didn't get to grow up in the magic that I did, but he had other experiences with the places that he grew up. I'm pretty sure he hasn't been back to Washington State since, so I think it'll be fun to take him to go see where I grew up and the area that he was born in. Am I doing that right? No, I am mixing this up, as always. Hold on here. I gotta make sure I did this right. Alright. 6, 4, 3, 5. Alright, 6. Another 4. 8, 7, 6, and 8. So yeah, let me know if you're from the US, what your favorite thing about the state that you live in is, or if you're from other countries, what's your favorite thing about your country? I'd be very interested to hear that. I think my favorite thing about the US what is my favorite thing about the US? That's a tough one. I would have to say probably the mountain ranges. But I am going to go ahead and stop this here because we are running a little long. And I know I try and keep my videos shorter, but Lego just takes a while. So I am going to go ahead and stop right here. I should be able to pick up back where I left off. I am Izzy with Izzy Builds Bricks. Thank you for watching.